I found them down at my garden. They was 2 down there. And I pulled them up and brought them up here.
These are pretty.
And every year I've tried to get them to grow. So if he shovels me up some, I was going to get out in a little while and plant these.
So the other day we seen some on the way to Hayesville, and Granny tried to get me to stop and dig them up. And I said, you can't just dig people's flowers up. And Granny said, oh, it's the state right away. That ain't nobody's.
They're wildflowers. And that's where they grow. They was all up and down that Qualla Road. Look at there, that hung in that.
Looks like it's almost meant to be there.
Where did Paul find these?
Behind this tennis court building. He said there's gobs of them.
Wow.
And he hated just to mow them down. And I said, son, don't mow them down. Take your shovel and that old dishpan, and if you can shovel them up with the roots. I've tried for years to get me a start of them. I believe it's some kind of sage, but I've never seen a prettier pink.
Do they smell, Corey?
No, they don't smell. But now
They
this
smell a little.
hosta here,
Not much.
they call it the August
Kind of have a
lily.
different smell.
It smells, and it'll smell up your whole house. Have you got any of them?
Yeah, I've got some of them.
These don't smell like you would think. They almost do smell like sage.
I think it's some kind of sage.
It's got an interesting smell. It ain't real sweet or floral. It's almost more heady or woodsy or something like that.
If he brings me some, and he said he would, I told him to dig them up to shovel them up and not disturb the roots. Reckon you could go online and find out what they are.
Yeah.
And we used to come from the dentist, and I'd see them down that road from Young Harris. And I'd want to stop and pull them up, and I never could get to stop because cars go so fast through there. You might, a seed might drop off of them.
Mm-hmm.
But he said he's going over to mow, and he said he just hated to mow them down.
I love to put salt on my watermelon. That's how I grew up eating it, and I just couldn't imagine eating watermelon without salt. However, I enjoy it so much. I'm sure I would get used to it if I had to give up salt, because watermelon is like my favorite all-time thing to eat, so I know I would still love to eat it. I'll save some of these seeds so that we can replant them next year, but what I do with the rinds, my chickens love them, so they'll love them. That's like a special treat for the chickens, is to get watermelon rinds. So this is Joe Pie weed. It grows throughout Appalachia, throughout the South, a lot of places. It's everywhere around my house, all over. Another name that sometimes you'll hear people call it is Queen of the Meadow. So when I was little and I would hear that, I would think, Queen of the Meadow? That don't really make sense because there's so many of them, and there can only be one queen, you know. Well, you can see as they get taller, they bend over too, because they're top heavy with those blooms. And the bees and the bugs and stuff, they're just having a heyday with the ones around my house right now. It's like they almost know, you know, winter's coming, cold weather's coming, we got to soak up everything we can before it gets here. But when I was a child and I would think about them being the queen of the meadow and think, you know, that's not possible, I would think, no, They're not like queens, they're like old biddies. Well, an old biddy is an old woman, but they're like old women who think they're the queen. They're bragging that they're the queen and that they know the impending winter, old man winter's coming, and that people better make haste, the bugs and the bees better make haste because winter's coming, yet never realizing that they're in a meadow full of other queens. So I don't, it's pretty deep thinking for a young girl, right? But that's the things that I would think about. But you can see them. They are a lovely plant, and they are a harbinger for sure of fall of the year coming to Appalachia.
That can't be right.
As time draws near, my dear, is dear when you and I must part. How little you know of the grief and woe of my poor aching heart. Each night I suffer for your sake. You're the one I love so dear. I wish that I was gone with you, or you were staying here. I wish my breast was made of glass, wherein you might behold. Upon my heart your name lies wrote in letters made of gold. In letters made of gold, my love, believe me.
Isn't this a beautiful flower, beautiful bloom? This is what most people call a passion fruit, passion vine, a passion flower. It's really pretty, and it grows around gardens. I can remember it grows wild. I can remember it growing around Pap's garden when I was a girl. Several years ago, we were over in Pine Log at some friend's house, and Katie was describing the flower to them and the little fruit that it produces. And they said, "Oh yeah, sure, I know about that. In fact, I have some seeds." So they shared their seeds with Katie, and she brought them home and planted them in various places. And ever since then, we have them every year. They come back up in my garden, just like they did in Pap's when I was a girl. It's a vining plant. You can see it's growing up with my Malabar spinach on our cattle panel here. You can see it growing up. It's beginning to come over. So it is a vining plant. It also produces edible fruit. Down here's one of the fruits. You can see right here, it's green. It's kind of hard right now. It's not ripe. Once it gets ripe, it gets really mushy. It's one of those things that has to get mushy before it's ripe. Inside this is lots of seeds, and there's a pulp that grows around those seeds that's really sweet. Katie made jelly. She's made passion fruit, or what I like to call them actually is what Pap called them. He called them wild apricots. So she's made wild apricot jelly before, and it was pretty tasty. Pap said when he was a boy and they were kids playing around, they would eat them, not necessarily because they were hungry, just because it was something sweet and something to do. He also said, as you can, since they're hollow kind of on the inside except for those seeds, when you stomp on this, it makes a pop. So they like to do that. They would pop them just for something to do. But when I see them, I think of Pap, and of course I think of wild apricots being one of the prettiest blooms of summer. So I'm harvesting my beets today. Probably should have already been harvesting, but sometimes that's what happens. You just can't get to it when you need to, but you can still, they're still pretty green, and I've got ones ranging from that size to big ones to little ones. That's usually how my beets do. Sometimes they really get big, and then this is probably the average size. So what will I do with these? I will make pickled beets with them. Sunday night supper, fried deer meat, fried taters, and ranch. I don't think it gets any better when it comes to eating.
sound from within seemed to fill the air. They were praying, a sound that the world seldom hears. Praying for the children that God loves so dear. Outside in the darkness I could not see, but I could picture them down on their knees, praying for someone like me. Jesus knelt down in the garden to pray. His sweat as blood, the Bible does say. While the disciples all slumbered and slept, he prayed to God that they would be kept. He was praying, a sound that the world seldom hears. Praying to the Father who loves him so dear. His soul was heavy in deep agony, thoughts of the suffering at dark Calvary. Praying for you and for me.
So every day for dinner, I eat a salad, and I love to come out here and just pick enough. I pick a little handful of my Malabar spinach and take it in to eat as the base of my salad. The leaves, as they get older, they get like slightly tougher. You can feel the difference. They're still good though. They're still good to eat. But the ones that are young are really thin, and I don't know that they're really better, but those are the ones. I usually go for the little ones. But that's such a joy to be able to walk out into your yard every day and pick your little handful of goodness and take it in and eat it. This is our beet harvest for this year. We've eaten a few along the way roasted in the oven, but this is the majority of them, and I'm going to make pickles out of them, pickled beets. You can eat the leaves from the beets. These are good for greens or in a salad, especially good sauteed. I find that they're better earlier in the year. These, as you can see, because I've waited so long to harvest my beets, this is August. You can see the leaves are kind of tattered and tore and kind of tough. So what I'm going to do with these, in a way, they're still going to feed our family, but first they're going to feed my chickens. So this should help the chickens out. They'll love these, they'll adore them, and then in turn, they'll give me eggs. You could see my little friend who snuck into the house when I opened the door last night. When I was growing up in Appalachia, we called these millers. So you may call them a moth. That's very common too, but in days gone by, they were called millers. So Granny or Pat might say, don't open the door with the light on, there'll be a bunch of millers come in. I have a really funny story.
one of Matt's friends told him that he grew up in the same kind of household I did, so that he was calling the moths millers. And he got one in his ear. One went down in his ear when he was grown. He went to the doctor and he told the doctor, he said, I have a miller in my ear. And the doctor's like, what do you mean? He said, I have a miller in my ear. Well, you can just imagine that went back and forth until finally he got the doctor to understand that it was a miller, what the doctor was calling a moth, that had went down in his ear. And every time it was flapping around, it was driving him crazy. And then the doctor got it out. So this is a miller in Appalachia.